Welcome to Spanish 2 for the 2021-2022 school year. I'd like to introduce myself and provide a brief overview of the course for students and families. My name is April Bryant and I will be teaching Spanish 1 and 2 at West High this year. I will be teaching in various classrooms, so the best way to contact me is by email. However, if you prefer to speak to me by phone, call the office at West High and I'll be sure to return your call. I've included my contact information here for your convenience. Students in Spanish 2 will be learning to communicate in Spanish with intermediate low proficiency. Intermediate language learners can use sentences and paragraphs to write and speak about familiar topics. They can interpret main ideas and details from written and spoken language. Intermediate learners produce language in present, past, and future tenses. Here is a graphic representation of the path to proficiency for intermediate learners. Students will progress through the stages using single sentences, stringing sentences together, and then stringing paragraphs together. Here's a video to help you better understand the path to proficiency.
With this in mind, let's look at the path of language proficiency. The American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages has developed guidelines that describe the major levels of proficiency: distinguished, superior, advanced, intermediate, and novice. Each of the levels is then subdivided into high, mid, and low. Altogether, this scale shows the continuum of language proficiency, from very little or no function to extremely well-versed and articulate. We can better understand these levels with the help of some simple analogies. Novices are like parrots. They can repeat back memorized words and phrases and speak in practiced, familiar situations. Intermediates are like survivors. They have the basic needs to survive in a foreign country involving simple solutions. They can create simple sentences and ask and answer questions, but lack the ability to communicate on a range of topics and are prone to frequent misunderstandings or gaps in communication. Advanced students are compared to storytellers and reporters.
Once upon a time,
They can describe and narrate in past, present, and future timeframes, and speak about many subjects in different situations. Superiors are like scholars. They can discuss abstract topics, hypothesize, support an opinion, and handle linguistically unfamiliar situations. We can then break down the sublevels. Those in the low sublevel are able to perform the level's tasks all the time, but with minimal quantity and quality. In other terms, they're barely hanging on. Students at the mid-level are able to perform the level's tasks all the time with solid, sustainable control and good quality. They are solid and strong. Those at the high end can perform the current level's tasks and perform the next level's tasks half of the time, but are unable to sustain it. The ACTFL describes those in this sublevel as fallen angels because they are close to being at the next level but fall back to doing the current level. Let's use another analogy to help bring it all together. Think of how a baby learns to walk. Typically, before being able to walk upright, the baby becomes very skilled at crawling. This child is a solid crawler, or at the mid-level of crawling. After time, the baby will begin to stand up and attempt to walk. However, they fall down a lot and continue crawling to get from one point to another because that's what they can do solidly. They are now at the high sublevel of crawling. They are attempting to walk, which is the next level, but are often unsuccessful and revert to crawling. After some practice, the child is able to take steps and walk all of the time, but only barely. They are very wobbly and may fall down, but they get back up and continue walking. The child is now at walker low level. Once they can walk solidly, they are considered walker mid. They don't need to crawl anymore and are very capable of walking. When the child wants to run but is unable to do so, we would likely categorize their proficiency as walker high. Typically, the child tries to run but ends up stumbling and has to slow down. Remember the fallen angel analogy? The child tries the next level, but is not quite ready to do it consistently and reverts back to what he or she can do. When the child can at last run consistently, we would say they are runner mid. In this same sense, children learn a new language and progress through stages with what they can do with the language. Using what we know about language proficiency, parents can get a clear idea of where students are expected to be at the end of each grade level.
So, how do we hit the target of intermediate low in Spanish 2? You can focus on the following skills to hit this proficiency target this year. First, learn the vocabulary. It's very difficult to be successful in a language if you don't know any of the words. You must study the vocabulary in order to be ready to use it in class. Studying your words is an assignment every day, whether the teacher gives you a reminder or not. There are several resources available to help you learn your vocabulary. A vocabulary sheet will be provided for each unit, digital flashcards, digital textbook access, the app that accompanies our new textbook, and links to resources and practice exercises will be available to all students on Google Classroom. Your success in this class is dependent on your knowledge of the Spanish vocabulary. Second, tips on speaking Spanish. I want you to be able to use Spanish to communicate, not just learn about Spanish. So, you'll be expected to speak Spanish in class as you are able. Take risks with the language and try new things. Try to add details. Do your own work and avoid translation sites such as Google Translate. A few approved apps will be recommended for use during and outside of class, but will not be required in order to be successful. A few key things to keep in mind when speaking a new language are: speak. Even though you'll make mistakes, try it. Speak Spanish during paired and small group work. Ask for help when you're unsure and study your vocabulary. You can't speak the words that you don't know. Since communication in Spanish is our goal, I will be speaking Spanish 90% of the time in class. Students are encouraged to listen and look for what they know. It's important to remember that you won't understand everything, and that is normal and expected. You should try to focus on what you do understand and ask for help when you're unsure. Use cognates and context clues to help you, and don't be afraid to ask someone to repeat things as needed or reread things more than once. It also helps to study your vocabulary. You can't understand the words that you don't know. In class, students can expect that Mrs. Bryant will use Spanish 90% of the time, provide the support and scaffolding you need to help you understand and be successful on the tasks, come to class prepared and ready to teach with 100% effort, provide timely grading and feedback to students and families, and meet the professional expectations of the Waterloo Community School District. In turn, I expect students will use Spanish as you are able, come to class prepared each day, participate in class with 100% effort. That doesn't mean 100% accuracy, just give it your best. Complete your tasks on time, show academic integrity, and meet the student expectations for West High. Students will need to bring the following materials to class each day: a willingness to use Spanish, writing utensils. A pencil is required, and then you may bring whatever other writing utensils you prefer. A notebook or other means with which to take notes. A Waterloo Community Schools provided device for digital learning. And sometimes a personal device will be permitted for certain activities during class. However, the use of a personal device is not required for success in the course. And last, a curiosity and willingness to learn. We have new textbooks this year in Spanish, and the level 2 book is orange and looks like this. It is called EntreCulturas, which means between cultures. Hard copies of the textbook will be available for students to use in the classroom, and they will not be checked out to individuals unless circumstances dictate otherwise. The digital version of the textbook will be available to all students via Google Classroom at all times of the day. There are some applications that are recommended but not required for use in Spanish 2. Wayside Publishing is the app that accompanies our digital textbook. It's a good idea to have a bilingual dictionary app if you're going to use a personal device. Duolingo is a language practicing app that students will learn more about in class, and there is an app for Google Classroom. Again, these applications are recommended but not required. Students' grades will be determined by the proficiency scale shown here. Grades will be assigned based on the West High grading scale and updated to Infinite Campus daily. They will be available to students and families in real time. When I change something, you will see it immediately. If you are unable to access Infinite Campus, please contact me or the registrar's office at West for assistance. Students' grades will be calculated using the following weighted task categories. 30% of the student's grade will be based on assignments, engagement in class using Spanish, and mini IPAs or progress checks. An IPA is an integrated performance assessment, and students and families will receive more information about those at a later time. 30% of the grade will be based on projects and presentations. 30% on IPAs or unit tests. Again, IPAs are integrated performance assessments. And 10% of the semester grade will be based on the final exam, which take place in January and June. Students and families will be able to access course materials on Google Classroom. Invitations will be forthcoming to the students' email addresses, and parents or guardians are invited to join our Google Classroom. You will receive an invitation in the email address provided to Infinite Campus. I encourage parents and guardians to use Google Classroom and email to stay informed throughout the semester. If you didn't provide an email address for Infinite Campus but wish to access Google Classroom and receive other updates, please call or send an email and I will send you an invitation. Thank you for the opportunity to share my love of Spanish with you and your student this year. I'm looking forward to teaching Spanish at West. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you.